showing the pictorially the different parades. And I used to go and I was allowed to wander around my own neighborhood. And of course, I sought out the St. Charles Avenue homes because that's where the wealthy people were. And I think, as I recall, every time I sold them a subscription for Momus, Proteus, Comus, and Rex, I think I made about 50 cents. It was very wonderful not to have that much money in those days.
In later years, capping off his well-established career, Pi Dufour would use his talents to document the histories of three major carnival organizations in books commissioned by the crews themselves: Momus, Proteus, and Rex. With scholarly pursuits aside, any local historian knows there is one day to leave the writing and the books behind, to join in the celebration.
What do you do on Carnival Day?
I yell with my children, my grandchildren, to, hey, Mr. Throw me something.
New Orleans parade goers are accustomed to receiving throws from float maskers, but may not realize who is responsible for that most famous of throws, the doubloon. Marcia Kavanaugh profiles an amazing gentleman. For most carnival enthusiasts, H. Alvin Sharp will go down in history as the doubloon man, the artist who created, designed, and minted the very first Rex doubloon in 1960. Sharp's doubloons were an instant hit, with over 2.75 million thrown in the first decade of their debut.
Like most artists, they either have to die or do something really bizarre to be famous in their lifetime. Al's gone now, which is really sad. Most people remember Al for his contribution to Carnival. To me, sadly enough, that's not his greatest or near his greatest accomplishment in his life. He had a 6th grade education, and as a teenager, he took off and traveled the seas on sailing ships for about 15 years.
Known for her paintings of rural life, artist Marianne Picot de Bois Blanc cherishes a rare, sharp seascape.
One day it came up for auction, and Jimmy, my cousin, found it. And he called me up right away and he said, "Do you want it?" I said, "Yes, I want it." So he bought it and brought it to me, and that's one of my most valuable possessions. I love it. He ground his own colors. The blue was lapis lazuli.
Al loved doing a lot of specialty pieces for a lot of friends and to sell on the market. In the 1930s, he prospected in Kentucky, and he uncovered a massive vein of corundum, and they're black rubies. He set them in 24-karat pure gold, and they're all titled as part of his love for the Bible. On the back, it has his stamps, pure gold and tear of Delilah, and it is a 75-karat ruby. I met Al for the first time, I guess in the early 70s, through my aunt. We both worked in the oil business, and on weekends and on her lease brokerage trips, we'd go to New Orleans, and we'd always go and stop to see Al. This was a gift from my aunt, Lorna Arango, and this was a Derringer, I presume it was, that Al took and had the sterling silver handle made and applied it to the gun, and it's Ne Coupe, it's the ghost of Grand Isle. Mr. Sharp was actually the first person that pushed me to think seriously about my art as a career. And with his detailing, it taught me lessons of detail, how to look for detail, and how important it is. One of the reasons I was so attracted to Al and his work, architecture, he had done a series on architecture of Louisiana, and I believe it was for WYS, for the auctions in the 70s.
Sharp was as inventive with words as he was with images.
One of my most favorite poems of all times is one of Al's, and it's called The Ten Telbassa. And it's his version of God's laws, the Ten Commandments. I believe in a God of compassion, divine in life, time, and space, who calls in time his servants to stand before him face to face.
The remarkable H. Alvin Sharp, the father of the doubloon, changed the face of Carnival. But it is his legacy of achievements and artistic endeavors that crowns him as New Orleans' very own Renaissance man.
Many carnival traditions have European origins. Marcia Cavanaugh provides a history of the Boeuf Gras journey from old France to modern New Orleans.
Carnival is a season of symbols. I mean, we certainly have many things we associate with Carnival and Carnival parades, but nothing really connects back historically to the origins of this celebration like the Boeuf Gras.
We've found some wonderful illustrations in the 1600s in France where a live Boeuf Gras was paraded through the streets on Mardi Gras, on Fat Tuesday, and in that time he really was carved up at the end and supposedly fed to the peasants. Well, it's really symbolic of the last meat eaten during the pre-Lenten season, you know, so it's the farewell to flesh deal of the whole carnival season, so it's really central to Mardi Gras and perhaps its earliest icon.
In Paris, for example, nobody would have been talking about a Mardi Gras parade. They would have been talking about a parade of the Boeuf Gras. That was what led the parade. That was what was the parade.
As early as 1867, Comus paraded a live bull through the streets of New Orleans. In 1872, a live bull led the very first Rex procession. Over the next 3 decades, special carnival editions of the Times-Picayune chronicled the prominent position of Rex's regal mascot. These bulletins depicted elegant design motifs featuring a noble steer, but finding such a bull proved challenging. Along came Old Jeff.
We understand Old Jeff was basically a stockyard bull who was very docile and was used around the stockyard to help move other cattle around. And each year Old Jeff was pressed into service to ride on the cart as the Boeuf Gras. We have only one surviving picture I've ever seen of that live bull in the Rex parade before it was retired in 1901. And the Rex leadership at that time thought that having Old Jeff in his glory in this parade just didn't measure up to the spectacle they were building. This was the golden age of Carnival when floats were spectacularly designed and created and dazzled the crowds. And they simply retired the Boeuf Gras.
But the loyal steer was sorely missed. On January 31st, 1959, Rex issued a decree. It is our royal will to restore the Boeuf Gras, an ancient tradition of Mardi Gras, forgotten these 53 odd years. The reinstatement, however, did come with a qualifier: no live bull. In a bow to the emerging 1960s pop culture, the Boeuf Gras resurfaced in caricature form.
I call it the El Toro version of the Boeuf Gras.
One looked like a rodeo bull or something, and I'm glad we got rid of that. But now I think it's a friendly bull and one that's a beloved creature. And
Rex also pays tribute to the Boeuf Gras with special beads and popular throws.
yeah, this is a lot of bull. This is a big one, and I think it's really, really beautiful, and one that I wish I had in my collection. Hint, hint. But it's great, and they come in various sizes and shapes. This is a vinyl Boeuf Gras, a mini plush. I understand they've done emblem necklaces that have been thrown through the years. It's just one more way to I guess, promote their most famous icon.
Today, the riders on Rex's signature float dress as butchers to honor an ancient custom.
That competition to see who could raise the largest boeuf, the most gloriously fatted ox before the parade, was a competition of the Butchers Guild in Paris. And so when you see early etchings and drawings of those parades, you'll see butchers carrying the tools of their trade, axes and knives and clubs and so on. And they, in fact, marched with that Boeuf Gras. So what we have now is a float that is as true as we can make it, short of bringing back a live Boeuf Gras to the way this would have been celebrated hundreds of years ago. The Boeuf Gras is part of Rex's commitment to holding on to those traditions, not because they're old and therefore we ought to have them, but because they're beautiful, because they form part of that connection back through decades and generations to the earliest citizens of New Orleans, where this was a part of the fabric of their lives. They came here and they recreated it, and elements of that go forward each year in the Rex Parade.
We all know that these are just a few of many Mardi Gras stories. The good news is that with each passing year, there will be many more stories to tell.
Mardi Gras Stories is made possible by the WYES Producer Circle, a group of generous contributors dedicated.
Hi,